The surgeon's pen hovered over the consent form, then stopped. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, not unkindly. "Legally, you're nobody to her. I can't take you as next of kin." The fluorescent lights hummed over my head. The smell of disinfectant burned my nose. Behind the glass doors of the ICU, machines beeped around the woman on the bed, the same woman who'd been sleeping in the back of a rusted minivan the first night I met her. On the molded plastic chair beside me, a little girl's sneakers swung above the floor. Her fists were balled so tight around my sleeve that her knuckles were white. "He's not nobody," she blurted, voice cracking through the quiet like a thrown rock. "He's the only person who stayed." Every head in that waiting room turned. The surgeon hesitated. The charge nurse looked from me to the girl to the glass doors. I felt every mile of night shifts in my bones, every overdue bill, every hour I'd spent trying to keep all of us from falling apart. I looked through the glass at her pale under the oxygen mask, and I knew exactly what would happen if I walked away. I stood up anyway. "Then put that down," I said, my voice shaking but loud. "Put it down that the man who's nobody is the one who's going to sign, so she gets a chance to wake up. Before I go any further, tell me where you're listening from tonight, and hit that like and subscribe button if you believe courage still matters in this world." To understand how a warehouse guy with a bad back ended up arguing with a surgeon about a woman he technically didn't even know, I need to take you back about 8 months. Back before the hospital, before the forms and the machines, to a Tuesday night behind a big box store on the edge of Dayton, Ohio. My name's Mark Holloway. I'm 36 years old, and for most of my life, my world has been concrete floors, steel shelves, and the beep of forklifts backing up. I run the night shift at a regional distribution center off I-75, the kind of place nobody thinks about until their paper towels don't show up on the shelf. Most days start when most people are going to bed. I clock in at 6 p.m., work under buzzing lights until 3 or 4 in the morning, then drive home while the sky is just starting to think about turning gray. If things are quiet, I get 2, maybe 3 hours of sleep before a pair of little feet pad into my room and my real job starts. That job is Dad. My son Caleb is 7 and has my eyes and his mother's laugh. His mom Jenna didn't live long enough to see him start kindergarten. One moment she had a headache in the kitchen, the next moment there was an ambulance in our driveway, and a word I'd never heard applied to anyone I loved before: aneurysm. By the time I made it to the hospital, the decisions were all made without me. That was 4 years ago. Since then, life has been one long juggling act. Pay the rent on the little duplex. Keep the old Ford running. Pack school lunches that don't embarrass him. Show up to parent-teacher conferences with grease on my hands and dark circles under my eyes, pretending I'm not terrified he notices how tired I am. I don't drink, I don't go out, I don't date. I stack pallets, run inventory, keep my guys from throwing out their backs, and try to be at the bus stop at 3:15. With a smile big enough that Caleb doesn't see the worry behind it. Family for us is small. My folks live 3 states away and think I should have moved on by now. Jenna's parents couldn't look at Caleb without seeing her, so they just stopped showing up. So it's been me and my boy and the steady hum of the warehouse. I thought that was all we were ever going to get. Then one wet March night, after a 12-hour shift and a broken conveyor belt, I was walking out the back door with my lunchbox in one hand and my car keys in the other when I saw headlights still on in the far corner of the employee lot. A beat-up blue minivan sat crooked across 2 spaces back end, weighed down every window, fogged from the inside. A little face had drawn a heart in the condensation on the glass. And that was the night everything started to change. The minivan windows were still fogged the next morning when I pulled into the lot before my shift. The sun wasn't up yet, just a thin gray smear over the horizon. Most nights I parked wherever the closest space was, but that morning my truck rolled almost on instinct toward the far corner. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe the van gone, maybe a note, maybe nothing. Instead, the same heart was still there on the glass, wiped, once redrawn by a small hand. Inside, a figure shifted upright. A woman, younger than I'd thought in the dark, maybe early 30s, with tangled auburn hair and a blanket pulled around her shoulders. She blinked at me through the window, startled, then disappeared into the back seat. I didn't tap on the glass, didn't speak. I just nodded small, like I was tipping my hat. A gesture that said, "I see you." Not, "I'm saving you." Not, "I pity you," just, "I see you." She hesitated, then slowly nodded back. I walked into the building and let the heavy warehouse door slam shut behind me. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, everything changed when the regional VP decided to visit. Nobody liked him. His name was Franklin Boone, but he insisted on being called Mr. Boone. He wore polished loafers in a place where everyone else wore steel toes and had a habit of sneering at people who made less money than he did, which meant he sneered at everyone. The moment he stepped onto the warehouse floor with his clipboard and his cologne that smelled like money and disdain mixed together, every guy on my shift stiffened. "Mark," he said, scanning me like I was a disappointing inventory count. "I hear your section's been underperforming." I blinked. "We've met quota every week for the past 2 months." He tilted his head, that smug corporate smile spreading. But not exceeding it. Behind me, 2 of the new hires froze mid-lift. My jaw tightened. "We're short-staffed and running older equipment, but we're hitting what's required." Required, he repeated like the word itself offended him. "Your attitude tells me everything I need to know. I should have stopped there. I should have just walked away." But sudden heat hit my chest. "My attitude is trying to keep my crew uninjured with machines older than some of our employees." He stepped closer. Too close. Is that an excuse I didn't answer? He didn't want an answer. He wanted submission. He wanted someone to bully because his tie was more expensive than our weekly grocery bill. His eyes flicked to the far door, the one leading to the employee lot. "You have clutter back there," he said. "A vehicle that hasn't moved. Looks like someone's sleeping in it." My stomach dropped. He didn't wait for my reaction. If that belongs to someone on your shift, it's a violation. If it belongs to a trespasser, it's a liability. Either way, remove it. Today. "It's not hurting anyone," I said before I could stop myself. His eyebrows rose. "Do you know whose it is?" I swallowed hard. "No, sir." He smirked. "Good. Then it won't be your problem when I call for a tow." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Wait. There's no need." He held up a hand, silencing me like I was a child. "This is a place of business, not a charity. If a stray wants help, she can go to a shelter." His tone made the words ugly. "Stray. She's a person," I snapped. That was the first mistake. "You just said you didn't know who it was," he replied coolly. "Which is a lie. And lying to a supervisor is grounds for disciplinary action." My face heated. "I wasn't lying about careful," he interrupted, voice silk over steel. "You're already on thin ice. If you can't maintain control of your shift or your tongue, I'll replace you with someone who can." He walked away, heels clicking on concrete. Behind me, my guys stared at the floor. Not one of them spoke, but the silence said everything. "You're in trouble now, Mark." At 3:15 that afternoon, I stood at the bus stop outside Lincoln Elementary, waiting for my son. Parents chatted around me, moms in yoga pants, dads in polos, and Bluetooth earbuds. I stood quietly at the edge, steel-toed boots on pavement, trying to shake Boone's voice out of my head. The school doors burst open and kids poured out like a shaken snow globe. Caleb spotted me and sprinted over backpack bouncing. Dad. Guess what I got a star on my spelling test? He was grinning, eyes shining freckles bright from running. He handed me the paper corners crumpled from excitement. Nailed it, I said, ruffling his hair. But he didn't smile back this time. His expression shifted almost instantly. What's wrong? Kids notice everything. They always do. Just a long shift, I said. He squinted, reading my face the way someone else might read a book. Did someone yell at you? I laughed softly, despite myself. Why would you think that? Because when you're tired, your eyes look sleepy. But right now they look mad sad. Mad sad. He wasn't wrong. I crouched so we were eye level. Hey, there's nothing you need to worry about. Okay. He nodded slowly, though the worry didn't leave his face. I almost said more, but a voice cut through the air behind us. Mark. I turned. Oh no. Boone was walking toward us like he owned the sidewalk. Perfect, he said. I need you to stay late tonight. Emergency inventory. I stood slowly. I can't tonight. You will, he said, already annoyed. That wasn't a request. My son needs me home. I don't have childcare. He smiled like a man who enjoyed stepping on fragile things. Perhaps that's something to consider when taking on a role with responsibility. I felt Caleb step closer to my leg. His small hand slipped into mine. Boone noticed and smirked even harder, unless he said lightly, "You'd prefer I review your file and reconsider your position altogether." The threat hung there, thick as humidity. A couple parents nearby glanced over, pretending not to listen. Caleb's fingers tightened around mine. Hard. Because he understood exactly what was happening. And there was nothing I could do to protect him from hearing it. I'll come in, I said quietly. Boone clapped me on the shoulder like we were friends. Excellent decision. Then he walked away. Caleb looked up at me, tears gathering fast. I thought you said no one yells at you. I knelt again, throat tight. He didn't yell, I said softly. He just forgot how to be kind. Caleb's voice cracked. I don't like that man. Neither did I. I dropped Caleb at my neighbor Denise's apartment. She was a retired nurse who watched him when she could and headed back to the warehouse. The lot was half empty now. The minivan was still there. But something was different. The back door was slightly open. The woman from that morning was standing outside the van, arms wrapped around herself, shivering in the wind. A little girl, maybe 6, peeked out from the blankets inside. The woman jumped when she saw me. "Oh, sorry. I'll move if this is your space." "It's okay," I said. "You're fine." Her shoulders eased barely. I hesitated, then added, "There's a man in there today who wants it gone." Fear hit her face instantly. Not surprise fear, like this wasn't the first time she'd been chased off somewhere. "I'll leave tonight," she whispered. "I promise." "You don't have to." But she was already shaking her head. "We can't stay anywhere too long. People complain. They think we're dangerous." She looked away, embarrassed. The little girl inside tugged her sleeve. "Mommy, I'm hungry." My chest twisted. I wanted to say 100 things, offer food, offer help, offer safety, but I'd learned the hard way that you don't grab someone's pride with both hands and crush it. Instead, I nodded toward the back door. "Do you need anything right now? For tonight?" She hesitated, then whispered, "We're okay." But her eyes said we're not. Before I could respond, the warehouse door slammed open and Boone stepped out, phone to his ear. He spotted the van and walked straight toward it. Straight toward her. "Hey!" he barked. "You can't be here. This is private property. Move it or I call a tow." The woman jumped, shielding her child on instinct. I'm sorry. We're just..." Boone raised a hand. "Spare me. Move the junk heap now." I stepped between them before my brain could catch up. "That's enough," I said. He blinked. "Excuse me, she's not hurting anyone." He stared at me, amusement turning to cold irritation. "Is this why you argued earlier?" "Over this." My pulse pounded. "Show some decency," I said. "Decency," he repeated, incredulous. "This is a workplace, not a shelter. If you want to play hero, do it somewhere else." He pulled out his phone. "Fine. Tow truck it is." The woman gasped. The child whimpered. And something inside me, the last bit of patience, maybe finally snapped. "Hit that call button," I said quietly. "And you're doing it over me." He froze. The wind whipped across the lot. The woman stared at me like she didn't understand why a stranger was standing between her and a blow meant for her world. Boone lowered the phone slowly. "Is that a threat?" "Holloway?" "No," I said. "It's a promise. If you're towing someone out of here first, tow me." We were inches apart now. Him in his polished shoes, me in boots covered in dust and warehouse grime. "I've been patient with you," he said. "But this is insubordination. I could fire you right now." I didn't move. "Go ahead," I whispered. "But I'm not stepping aside." His jaw worked fury building, but something in the air had shifted. A couple workers had gathered quietly at the loading dock. Watching. He finally spat. "She has until tomorrow morning. After that, she's gone. And so are you if you interfere again." Then he stormed back inside. The lot was silent again. The woman's breath shook in the cold. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "You'll lose your job." I turned toward her, heart still pounding. "Ma'am," I said, voice steadying. "I've lost things before. Big things. I can live with losing a job." A tear slipped down her cheek. "But I couldn't live with myself if I let him talk to you that way." Her daughter peeked out again, eyes wide. And that's when the weight of everything, Boone, the shift, the tow threat, the fear, hit me all at once. I exhaled slowly. Tomorrow morning was a deadline. For her. For that van. And maybe for me. One way or another, something had to break. Sunrise hit the warehouse lot in a strip of dull orange the next morning. Frost clung to the grass. My breath came out in clouds as I walked toward the back corner where the blue minivan sat. But today, something was wrong. The van door was open. Wide open. And the woman, her name still unknown to me, was nowhere in sight. My stomach dropped. "Hello?" I called softly, approaching the door. Inside, blankets were thrown aside, a small backpack spilled across the floor. A little pink shoe lay half-crushed against the seat. Then a tiny voice answered, wavering. "Sir." The little girl peeked up from behind the back seat. Her cheeks were streaked with tears. She clutched a stuffed rabbit so tight its neck was twisted. "Where's your mom?" I asked quietly. She swallowed hard. A man was yelling. He grabbed her arm. She told me to hide. Ice shot through my veins. Not Boone. Someone else. Someone worse. Where did he take her? She pointed a trembling hand across the lot toward the abandoned loading dock behind the old storage trailers. A place where cameras didn't reach. A place only workers bothered with. "Okay," I whispered, steadying my voice for her sake. "Stay here. Don't move. I'll bring her back." She nodded once, trusting me completely in that way only children can. I ran. The air behind the trailer smelled like cold metal and stale oil. My boots slapped the concrete as I rounded the first corner and froze. A man had the woman pinned against the wall, one hand on her arm, the other fisted in her jacket. She was shaking, her voice barely audible. "You think you can disappear with my kid?" he snarled. "Her kid." The words hit like a hammer. She tried to pull away, voice cracking. "You were drunk. You hit her. I wasn't letting you." He slammed her back against the wall so hard her head snapped sideways. White-hot fury surged through me. Not the loud kind. The cold surgical kind that hits right behind your ribs. I'd felt it once before on the night Jenna died, and the ER nurse brushed me aside like a stranger. Not this time. Not again. Not while a child waited in a cold van believing her mother was coming back. I stepped forward. "Let her go," I said. The man turned, still gripping her arm. He looked mid-30s, wiry, but strong eyes, bloodshot jaw twitching with rage. "And who the hell are you?" he snarled. The woman saw me and shook her head frantically. "Mark, don't just go, please." He shoved her again. "You know him?" "She doesn't know me," I said quickly. "I work here." "Oh," he sneered. "A forklift hero." He pushed her again. Hard. That was it. I moved. Years of warehouse work teach you a strange kind of instinct. You learn how to shift weight fast, how to pivot, how to use momentum. I didn't think, I just acted. I grabbed his wrist and twisted, pulling his arm off her shoulder. He cursed, swinging at me with his free hand. I ducked, grabbed his collar, and shoved him backward. He stumbled into a stack of old pallets, knocking them over in a crash of splintered wood. The woman gasped, sliding down the wall, clutching her arm. The man scrambled up, wild-eyed. "You want to die today, old man? I'm 36, I said. "And you need to walk away." He lunged. We hit the ground hard. His fist grazed my cheek. Pain spiked along my jaw. He swung again. I blocked, grabbed his hoodie, rolled, slammed him sideways into the asphalt. Warehouse nights build muscles you don't notice until you need them. He was fast, but I was stronger. "Stop," the woman cried. "Please, both of you stop." But the man wasn't listening. He yanked a piece of broken pallet off the ground, a jagged board with a splintered edge, and raised it like a weapon. My pulse kicked into overdrive. He swung. I caught his wrist with both hands, the sharp wood inches from my face. He grunted, pushing down with everything he had, spit flying. Somewhere behind us, I heard voices, 2 workers starting their early shift, but they were still too far away. It was just him, me, and this weapon hanging between us. "You don't get to hurt her," I rasped, muscles shaking. "And who are you?" he snarled. "Her boyfriend? Her knight in shining garbage?" "No," I said, teeth gritted. "Someone who's not walking away." He shoved harder. The wood edged closer. I felt a splinter dig into my cheek. Jenna's voice slammed into my memory, sharp as the day she left. "Take care of him. Promise me. Take care of him even if I can't." And I realized something. If I gave up here, if I backed down, this man would go after the van next. After the child. After the only safe place they had. Not happening. I shifted my weight, jerked his arm sideways, and slammed my knee into his ribs. He wheezed. The board fell from his grip. I grabbed him by the collar, pinning him with a strength I didn't know I still had. "There's a little girl in that van," I hissed. "Your daughter. Waiting for her mom. Crying. Scared. And you want to tell me I don't belong here?" His anger flickered. For half a second, guilt cracked through the rage. Then footsteps thundered in from the lot. "What the hell is going on?" someone yelled. I looked up. Boone. Of all people. He stood at the mouth of the alley, 2 security guards flanking him, eyes wide at the scene, me on top of a man, a woman collapsed against a wall, a broken board on the ground. The perfect picture of chaos. Boone's face twisted with triumph. "You!" he snapped. pointing at me. "You're done. You're fired. Immediately." "No," the woman cried, stumbling forward. "Please, he was helping me." Boone didn't even hear her. Or maybe he did and didn't care. "You attacked a trespasser on company property," he said, relishing every word. "Pack your things. You're finished." The man on the ground coughed and spat blood onto the pavement, half laughing through it. "Yeah," he said to Boone. "Fire him. He thinks he's some kind of hero." A security guard grabbed my arm. I shook free. "I don't care about the job," I said, breath still ragged. "But she needs help, and so does her daughter." Boone froze. "Her what?" A small voice echoed from behind the van. "Mommy!" The little girl stepped into view, Bunny clutched to her chest. The woman broke into sobs and ran to her, dropping to her knees and pulling her into her arms. Workers emerging from morning shift stopped in their tracks, taking in the sight. A child, a battered mother, a man still wheezing on the ground. Boone's jaw dropped slightly. "This is a domestic situation," he muttered, suddenly unsure. This is not what I was told." "Yeah," I said, standing straighter. "Because you didn't ask." The woman looked up at him, tear-streaked. "He saved me. He saved us." The little girl nodded, voice small but clear. "He helped my mommy." Silence spread across the lot. Boone's confidence cracked. He glanced around at the guards, at the workers, watching at the family huddled together on cold asphalt. For the first time, he didn't have control. "Security, call the police," he finally said. But his voice wavered. "Have them take whatever statements they need." The man on the ground groaned. "You're all making a big mistake." "No," I said quietly. "The only mistake is what you tried to do." A new voice broke in from behind us. "Sir, you need to step aside." A female officer was approaching, hand already on her belt. Her partner followed close behind. Boone straightened like he owned the place again. "Officers, this man?" "We'll figure it out," she said, brushing past him. She crouched beside the woman and child instead. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" The woman nodded, showing the bruise forming on her arm. The officer turned to me. "Are you the one who called this in?" I shook my head. "No, I just stepped in." She looked me over. My bruised cheek scraped knuckles, shirt torn at the sleeve, then nodded once. "Looks like you stepped in at the right time." The other officer hauled the man to his feet. "You're under arrest for assault." He started shouting, but his voice was swallowed by the growing crowd. The little girl buried her face in her mother's neck. And me, I stood there shaking. Not from fear, from the crash of adrenaline wearing off, from the realization of how close this came, and from a deeper truth pressing into my ribs. I couldn't walk away now. Not from them, not from any of this. Boone stepped toward me, trying to recover authority. "You still don't have a job here," he said under his breath. I looked him dead in the eye. "Then you're firing the only man who stepped up today." A murmur spread through the watching workers. He faltered. For the first time since the day he arrived, Boone had no comeback. The officers led the man away. The woman and child clung to each other. And the warehouse, this cold, gray place I'd worked for 12 years, felt suddenly like a battlefield where the lines had been redrawn. The crisis wasn't over, but everything had changed. Who was saved? A mother, a child, and maybe a part of me I thought died years ago, who witnessed it. Everyone who needed to, and who was humbled. The man who thought power came from a title, not from courage, not from stepping in, not from choosing to be the kind of man you promised someone you'd be long after she was gone. I wiped the blood from my cheek. exhaled slowly, and looked at the woman and her daughter. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning, and I could feel it in my bones. The biggest truth, the one that would change everything, was still coming. The officers' radios crackled as they loaded the man into the cruiser lights, painting the warehouse walls in red and blue. Workers lingered in knots around the lot, pretending to smoke or stretch or adjust their gloves, but really they were watching me, watching us. The woman, still shaking, sat on the curb with her daughter wrapped in her coat. The little girl clung to her like she thought the world might take her mother again if she loosened her grip for even a second. I crouched near them, leaving enough space not to overwhelm. "Are you hurt?" The woman shook her head, though her wince said otherwise. The daughter watched my every move, rabbit pressed against her cheek. Not fear now, cautious trust. A few feet away, Boone was pacing, arms crossed, tight jaw clenched. He was furious, but there was something else in his eyes, too, something I'd never seen from him. Uncertainty. It hung in the air like static. The officers finished their notes and came back toward us. The older one, a sergeant whose name tag read Keller, looked at me long and hard before speaking. "You're the one who stepped in, yes, sir?" He grunted. "That man's wanted in 2 counties for domestic assault. Lucky you showed up when you did." The woman whispered, "He followed us. I didn't know where to go." Keller nodded, softening. "You did the right thing coming here. He won't be near you again tonight, I promise you that." Then he turned to me. "You ever consider law enforcement?" The question hit me so hard I almost laughed. "No, sir. I work nights in a warehouse." He studied me another beat. "Well, you handled yourself better than half the rookies I train." A murmur rippled through the workers behind us. I could feel Boone stiffen like someone had just punched him in the solar plexus. Keller handed the woman a pamphlet and gave me a nod that felt like something more than gratitude, respect, maybe. Then he and his partner drove off, leaving the lot in silence. The woman turned to me, voice unsteady. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," I said softly. "Just tell me your name." She blinked as if surprised I hadn't asked earlier. "Emily. And this is Lila." The little girl managed a timid wave. "Emily," I repeated. "I'm Mark. You're safe now." Her eyes filled not with fear, but with the weight of someone unused to kindness. I haven't felt safe in months. Behind us, someone cleared his throat. Loudly. "Boone! You," he said, pointing at me like I was a dog that had chewed his briefcase. "Inside. Now." But this time people didn't part for him. They stayed put, watching, waiting. He hesitated, taken aback. Then he grabbed his authority like a weapon and marched toward the building. Something in my chest tightened. I stood to follow. Emily's hand shot out, gripping my sleeve. "Please don't let him punish you for helping us." I gave her a small, tired smile. "It's okay. I've handled worse." I hadn't. But she didn't need to know that. The office felt colder than the lot outside. Boone shut the door behind us and rounded on me. "You attacked someone on company property. That alone is grounds for termination." "He attacked her first," I said quietly. I stepped in. "You escalated. He had a weapon. You made us liable. He was going after his own kid." Boone slammed his fist on the desk. "You don't get to decide what happens on my side." I didn't flinch. "Not this time." He paced, breathing hard. "And what is this I'm hearing about you having training? Some kind of background you neglected to disclose?" I frowned. "Training," he scoffed. "Don't play dumb. That officer all but called you a professional. And the way you handled that man, don't tell me you learned that stacking pallets." Ah, so that's what this was. Not concern, not liability, Fear. Fear of someone he couldn't control. I exhaled slowly. There's nothing in my file because there's nothing to hide. Then explain, he demanded, arms crossed. Because right now you look like a threat. A threat. That word took me somewhere I hadn't been in years. A hospital room with machines beeping a social worker, asking if I had family who could take Caleb until you're stable. A nurse whispering, he seems overwhelmed. Maybe he's not fit to parent alone. And then Jenna, smiling in memory, fading in reality, saying, promise me you won't let anyone take him from you. I sank into the chair, hands clasped. Before I worked here, I spent 2 years training in emergency response. Boone's eyes narrowed. Fire Academy Volunteer Rescue Unit. Then why aren't you doing that now? Because the night Jenna died, I froze. I stood in that kitchen, staring at her lips turning blue, my hands refusing to move. All my training, every drill, every simulation evaporated. I failed the only person who mattered. And I couldn't stomach the thought of failing anyone else. Didn't work out, I said. Boone leaned in. Didn't work out or you got kicked out? Heat surged in my chest. I left, I said, sharper than intended. I had an infant son. I had no support. I had to choose. He snorted. So you quit? I stood. So I raised my child. His face twisted with the realization that he had stepped too far, but pride kept him from backing down. You should have disclosed it, he said stiffly. Any form of combat or tactical training changes your employment status. HR needs to know if you're a liability. A liability? Again. My stomach churned. He mistook my silence for guilt, like he always did. Effective immediately, you're suspended pending investigation. There it was. The hammer he'd been itching to swing. But before he could deliver the final blow, another voice came from the doorway. That's not going to happen. We both turned. Emily stood there, shoulders squared, jaw set, fear replaced by something new. Resolve. You don't get to punish him, she said. Not after what he did. This is a private meeting, Boone snapped. Then call security, she said. Go ahead. Let's see how they like hearing how you tried to have a mother and child thrown into the street. Boone's mouth fell open. Workers had followed her to the door. Even the supervisor from the day shift was there. She wasn't backing down. And neither were they. I want you to hear something Emily said, stepping closer. Her hand shook, but her voice didn't. You think he's some kind of liability? He's the only reason I'm alive. The only reason my daughter isn't in the back of a police cruiser begging for her mother. Boone swallowed hard. I've met men like you before, she continued. Ones who think power comes from barking orders and making people feel small. But real power, real strength. It looks exactly like what he did today. Then she turned to me. Tell him, she whispered. Tell him the truth. My breath caught. What truth? Boone asked, suddenly nervous. Emily's eyes held mine, urging me forward, so I let it out. All that training I mentioned. I wasn't just some volunteer. Boone blinked rapidly. Then what were you? I was next in line for certification on emergency extraction teams, I said quietly. High-risk rescue. Collapsed structures, trapped civilians, violent domestic calls. A ripple of surprise passed through the room. Why didn't you say so? Boone asked, voice suddenly small. Because I didn't want to be the man who froze again, I admitted. Because the day Jenna died, I knew exactly what was happening and I still couldn't save her. Emily stepped beside me, eyes soft. You didn't freeze today. No, I hadn't, and everyone knew it. The power in the room shifted, palpable, heavy, irreversible. Boone wasn't the authority anymore. He was the man who tried to fire the only person who acted like a human being. The day shift supervisor cleared his throat. Mark, if what you're saying is true, you should be leading safety ops, not pushing pallets. Boone stiffened. That's not his decision to make. No, the supervisor agreed. It's mine, he stepped forward. I'm offering you a new position. Full-time safety coordinator, higher pay, better hours, and you'd train the rest of us in what you know. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. Emily smiled softly, Lila peeking from behind her leg. You deserve this, she whispered. Boone looked stunned, defeated. For the first time since I'd known him, he seemed smaller than the room he stood in. You can't just, he began. I just did, the supervisor said. Silence stretched between all of us. A new opportunity hung in the air, one I never asked for, never expected, but suddenly, undeniably mine. But it came with something else, too. Something harder. Responsibility. For my son. For these people. For the woman and child who trusted me with their safety. Everything had shifted. Now I had to decide where to step next. The office emptied slowly, like people weren't sure whether they were allowed to leave until I moved first. Boone slipped out last, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the floor, as if he was already bracing for the calls he'd have to make to explain himself. The day shift supervisor clapped my shoulder once, firm, respectful, and said he'd draw up the paperwork by the afternoon. But the real shift happened outside the office door. Workers who'd barely spoken to me for years were suddenly meeting my eyes, nodding, murmuring things like, "Good job, man," and "You did the right thing." It wasn't loud praise. It wasn't applause. It was something better, quiet respect from people who had spent their lives doing hard work with no one watching. Emily waited at the end of the hall with Lila's hand tucked inside her coat pocket. When our eyes met, something eased in her posture, like she'd been holding her breath without realizing it. You didn't have to tell them any of that, she said softly. Felt like the right time I answered. And the new job? I shook my head, half laughing. I didn't see that coming. You earned it, she said. Today, and a long time before today. Lila stepped forward, her stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand. She didn't say anything, she just wrapped her arms around my waist in a quiet, instinctive hug. It hit harder than anything Boone had thrown at me, or anything the world had tossed my way these past few years. We walked to the lot together. Her van would need a tow to a shop, maybe more, but she didn't look ashamed now. Just tired and grateful. You two have somewhere to go tonight, I asked. Emily hesitated, then shook her head. Not anymore. Let's fix that, I said. For once, she didn't argue. 2 weeks later, the warehouse felt like a different place. The safety coordinator badge still looked strange, clipped to my shirt, but the work fit me in a way nothing else had since before Caleb was born. I trained crews on emergency protocols, inspected equipment, rewrote outdated procedures. People listened because they knew the advice came from someone who'd been in the real thing, not a manual. As for Boone, HR reassigned him to another facility. Word was he'd been put on probation after multiple complaints surfaced once people finally felt safe enough to speak. I didn't celebrate it, but I didn't lose sleep over it either. Emily and Lila stayed in a family housing program a few blocks away, one I helped connect them to. It wasn't much, 2 rooms, a kitchenette, but it was theirs. Emily found part-time work at a local bakery. Lila got enrolled in 1st grade. Every afternoon she'd run to the gate, holding up her drawings, demanding I hang them on my fridge. Caleb liked her instantly. Kids who've known fear recognize it in others. And kids who've survived it have a way of offering gentleness that feels older than their age. One Friday evening, after the 4 of us shared takeout burgers on my tiny living room floor, Emily lingered while the kids watched cartoons. You never told me the whole story, she said. Why you never used your training again? I wiped ketchup off my thumb and took a breath. Because I failed once, I said quietly. And losing Jenna, it made me afraid that if I ever froze again, someone else's family would pay the price. Emily nodded, eyes soft. But you didn't freeze here. No, I admitted. I didn't. She smiled just a little. People don't get moments like that by accident, Mark. They get them because life circles back and hands them a second chance. The room felt warmer after that. By spring, everything had settled into something that looked a whole lot like a life. A real one. Not the half-living I'd been doing since Jenna's funeral. I'd walk the kids to the bus stop, pack lunches, spend my shift training new hires, then swing by the bakery where Emily worked just to say hi. She'd always hand me a loaf by mistake, claiming she'd baked too many. We both knew better. On weekends, the kids built blanket forts while Emily and I sat on the floor drinking bad coffee and talking about everything we'd never said out loud the day we met. She told me about nights in the van when she'd pray Lila wouldn't wake up hungry because she didn't have anything left to give. I told her about nights in my apartment when I'd sit in the dark, afraid I wasn't enough for Caleb, and that one day someone would agree. Healing didn't come in a single moment. It came slow in layered trust, her letting me walk beside her, me letting someone into the part of my heart I'd kept guarded for years. And then one warm June evening, as the kids raced around the yard catching fireflies, Emily stood next to me on the back porch, arms folded against the railing. Do you ever think about how different things would be if you hadn't walked to the far end of the parking lot that morning, she asked. I looked at her, at Lila's giggles mixing with Caleb's shouts, at the glow of the jar they were filling together. Every day, I said. She leaned her head on my shoulder like it was the most natural place in the world. Me too. We didn't need to name anything that night. Some things grow on their own timeline. Some families do too. It's been a year since that cold morning behind the trailers. I still carry a faint scar on my cheek from that broken board. Emily calls it my reminder. Lila says it makes me look brave. Caleb tells people his dad is the safety guy who keeps everybody alive. Emily and I are building something real, slow, steady, honest. Not rushing, not forcing, just choosing each other one day at a time. And that warehouse corner where the minivan used to sit, it's now a designated safe zone, a place where anyone in trouble can sit without being questioned or chased away. My suggestion. The company approved it unanimously. Funny how a single act of courage can ripple outward like that. Sometimes people think heroes are soldiers or firefighters or CEOs on magazine covers, but I've learned heroes look different in the real world. Sometimes they look like a mother who refuses to give up. Sometimes they look like a child who trusts again. Sometimes they look like a tired man who decides not to walk away this time. And sometimes a hero is just a person who shows up on the day it matters most, even when the world insists they're nobody.